All right, so today we're going to dive into a fascinating story about accountability. It's a tale of two very different ways to tackle the same problem, pitting a powerful government watchdog against a brand new idea, community stewards.
But let's kick things off with a question that's really at the heart of this whole thing. What if fighting corruption wasn't about more laws and courtrooms, but about turning our civic duty into a kind of shared, sacred ceremony? Just keep that idea in the back of your mind as we go.
So, our story starts with the first approach, the traditional one. A super powerful government body in the Philippines, created from the top down to be a watchdog against corruption in public infrastructure.
Now, this body is officially called the Independent Commission for Infrastructure, or the ICI, and its job sounds pretty straightforward, right? Investigate dodgy stuff in projects like flood control systems, collect the evidence, and hold hearings. You can think of it as the government's official detective squad for public works.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting, because the ICI is kind of like a double-edged sword. On one side, it has some serious investigative muscle. I mean, it can issue subpoenas, tell banks to freeze assets, and it's great at exposing these ghost projects, where the money gets paid but the thing never actually gets built. But, and this is a huge but, on the other side, its enforcement powers are, well, they're pretty weak. It can't actually prosecute anyone. All it can do is pass its findings on to other agencies and hope they act. So it's got a sharp bite for investigating, but no teeth to bring about justice on its own. So that's the view from the top, right? But what about the view from the ground up? How does this powerful commission look to the very people it's supposed to be protecting?
Let's just put ourselves in their shoes for a second. If your family lives with the constant fear of flooding because of a poorly built dike, what does a commission holding hearings in some fancy boardroom miles away in Manila really mean for your day-to-day life?
Well, for many, the answer is summed up in this one simple, powerful phrase. It's just another symbolic gesture. It makes for a good headline, maybe a press conference, but it doesn't feel like real, actual change.
And you can see why there's this disconnect. The ICI's work is all happening behind closed doors, in legal briefs and official reports, a world away from the local community halls, the barangays. People on the ground almost never see the end result they want, like a corrupt official actually getting fired or stolen money coming back to the town. Without that clear follow-through, this mighty watchdog starts to feel, well, pretty toothless.
And this is where our story takes a really fascinating turn. Because if the top-down approach feels distant and the bottom-up view is just full of skepticism, what happens when you try to connect them?
The big idea is this. What if you could literally build a bridge? A bridge connecting the official, legal power of the ICI with the on-the-ground, first-hand knowledge and vigilance of the local community.
Now, this bridge isn't just a metaphor. It would be built on two really solid pillars. First, you create easy, accessible ways for people to report what they see, right where they are, in local community centers, in chapels, maybe even just through a text message. And second, and this is the game changer, you empower the community itself by training young people to form watchdog brigades that can professionally document and check out these reports. So that sounds great, right? But what would it actually look like in practice? Let's take a look at the blueprint for how this steward watchdog brigade would really work.
So here's the basic flow. It all starts with grounding the work in a real commitment. Stewards literally take oaths. Then they head out into the field to validate the claims, inspecting sites, taking pictures, and documenting everything. That evidence gets brought back and presented to community leaders for review. And only then, once it's been validated, is the report officially sent to the big dogs, the ICI.
And this flowchart just lays it all out beautifully. You can see it begins with a public ceremony, which is so important because it frames this not as just a job, but as a real promise to the community. From there, it moves through the field validation and local review, and it all leads to that final, critical step, transmitting the testimony. That right there, that's the moment the bridge gets completed. A report from a concerned citizen is transformed into official evidence that the ICI can actually use.
And now we're coming back to that big question from the beginning. Because this model doesn't just create a new way to report problems. It completely reframes the whole act of being a good citizen, turning it into a kind of sacred ritual.
And a huge part of that ritual is this badge grid logic. I mean, check this out. Young people actually progress through different tiers, each with its own symbol and its own ceremonial meaning. You start as an observer, becoming the eyes of vigilance. Then you can graduate to a documenter, carrying the scroll of witness. And eventually, you can become a defender, a true protector of legacy. It turns watchdog work from a chore into a genuine rite of passage.
And at the very core of this ritual are the oaths. It starts with this promise: to watch with integrity, to see what others ignore.
It then builds with a pledge to document with courage, to record the truth faithfully.
And it all culminates in this vow: to transmit that truth, to actually become that living bridge between the grassroots and the government. It's such a powerful progression. You learn to see, then to record, and finally to act.
So, when you step back and look at all this, you have to ask, what are the bigger implications here? Could this be more than just a really smart solution for one country?
Well, when you look closely, this whole approach lines up perfectly with some major global goals. It's a huge boost for SDG 16 because it's building stronger, more just institutions from the ground up. It strengthens communities, which is the whole point of SDG 11. It provides amazing hands-on civic education for young people. That's SDG 4. And by giving a real voice to local communities, it helps reduce inequalities, a key part of SDG 10. So this isn't just some local idea, it's got real global relevance. Which brings us right back to where we started, but now we're looking at it through a much wider lens. If we know that laws and commissions by themselves aren't always enough, could this idea, the idea of transforming accountability from a bureaucratic chore into a shared, sacred ritual, be the key to fighting corruption not just in one community, but all around the world? It's a pretty powerful thought to leave you with.